This is Uncle Edward talking to you from the Vienna woods. I don't know if you can see any woods out there. And I've been asked to join you all and explain what I do here with Oakee Doakee and all these things. I've been in Saj Yoga for 39 years. And I came from the West Coast of North America 35 years ago. Sri Mataji married me to an Austrian yogini, and who is an artist. She makes all these beautiful Ganeshas and wonderful things. So I'm quite lucky. I'm surrounded by a huge family of Ganesha and Hanumans. And we had a little boy. He's 29 years old now, so he's not little anymore. But when he was small, he went to the Saj Yoga Rome kindergarten. So they would live there. He first went there when he was small. And so instead of sending him a postcard every week, I was sending him a chapter of a book that I was writing. It wasn't actually a book, it was just a story. So the main character was Oakee Doakee. So Oakee Doakee is basically a Saj Yogi, little Saj Yogi. And yeah, at that time, the aunties would read the story every week, every time it would arrive by post to all the kids. And many years later, I had the idea to make drawings for it, illustrations, and create a book and get it published properly. And so it was a long time ago when I was actually writing the story. It was in the mid-90s. And I discovered later, when I looked back, that at the same time in Northern England, or Scotland, J.K. Rowling was just working on the beginning of Harry Potter. So it was just a coincidence. I thought she got the Harry Potter idea and I got the Oakee Doakee idea. And in a way, I like mine better because he's a Saj Yogi and he meets Sri Hanuman quite often. And some of the kids watching have read the second book, which is the Ego Bomb. And that book was based on the fact that France and other countries are doing a lot of atomic explosions, doing testing. And for years and years, I don't know how many atomic bombs they exploded in the South Pacific. And so this is Oakee and his mousy friends who were like secret agents, and they couldn't stand it anymore. Their job was to protect the Mother Earth. And all these bombs, these atomic bombs going off, and they set out to stop this last one. And just by chance, Oakee Doakee happened to shrink and visit them under the earth. And that's how he came to be involved in that adventure. The first adventure, he went up to meet Sri Indra in the heavens and Sri Varuna under the water, and he saved the world that time also. And more recently, I wrote, I had the idea for young readers. They loved Harry Potter so much because there was so much action and adventure and also scary parts. So I wrote Oakee Doakee and the Timeless Machine, the Ramayana, for young readers. So anybody that can start reading can read it for themselves. And so this is more of and it's based on what we know to be a true story, the story of Sri Rama and Sri Hanuman and how they met, and about the Rakshasa demons. So actually this is the more recent one. And yeah, when people ask me what I am, like, what do you do or what are you? Because I like to do many different things. I just refer to what Sri Mataji told me. For example, we drove to Russia in 1989 for the programs. And when we were there, Sri Mataji told us to go to the museum. So she said, you and these others are all artists, so you should go see the famous paintings. And another time, a couple of years later, Sri Mataji, that the puja programs, the evening before the puja, there was entertainment program, and I read a poem once on the stage. I was really nervous. A poem I wrote about the Kundalini. And then Sri Mataji saw my wife after, and she said, because I do carpentry work, she said, your husband was a carpenter and now he's a poet. So if anybody asks me what I am, I just say I'm an artist and a carpenter and a writer, based on what Shumataji said. And I also am a musician also. When I was a child, I studied every day. I had to practice my classical piano. And so yeah, so I've been here for a long time in Europe. And you know, last year, because of the lockdown, Cabela was closed. And the last 12 years, I've been every puja in Cabela. I bring my Brigittas, Ganeshas and everything there, because people like to get them, you know. And so last year was no Cabela, and next week I'm driving to Cabela for the first time. It's like my second home there, and so it's going to be quite wonderful to see all the yogis again. I guess a lot of you felt also that during the lockdown, especially if you're home from school, you didn't have a chance to see friends and things. And Brigitte and I, anyway, we're used to being at home. We work from home, you know, we have a beautiful place here. So it was nice in that way, but I felt like I was going crazy after a while, not being able to see everybody. So yeah, in a few days, I'll be driving over to Gabella. It's 1,000 kilometers and takes 10 hours. So I'll be there with my books and all these nice Ganesha statues and everything. So I think we'll have a short meditation, and yeah, I can just read a couple of short things. I've got one poem here that I wrote a long time ago that you might not have heard of, so I can read it for you. Yeah, so I'll just mention briefly, you know, 39 years is a long time in Saj Yoga, but I had a very, unlike many of you who were, you know, born into Saj Yoga and had a very safe and, you know, quite joyful, very vibrant childhood. I was born a long time ago in a time and a place where things were quite difficult. Not like most of the world where people are poor and stuff. We were poor in a way, but we had a house, and you know, I was raised in North America, so there's the house and the lawn and the driveway and the car, you know. But yeah, my parents were alcoholics, so they were always drinking and fighting and stuff. And then my father left, and then I kept breaking my arm and things like that when I was small. So it's interesting. It's when so I had to work out all these things, you know, these problems are in the chakras. And for a long time, I thought it was normal. That's for the childhood. And then later I realized it's not normal and that it creates difficulties, but many people have those difficulties. And then the last few years, I've really been working that out. It's been like coming up, you know, like waves. And I've really been able to see exactly what happened then. And basically what happened is now, because I have I'm 63 now, so I've had a long mountain climb going up. And it's interesting because I can see exactly how I've changed, you know, how the vibrations open things slowly, slowly, how the Kundalini heals things. And it's like an onion, you know, just the layers slowly get taken off. And like I say, most of you won't need to go through that because you're already fresh and clear, and your lotuses, you know, your chakras are nicely open. So yeah, it was a very dark, you know, like a nightmare. But at the same time, because the Kundalini was working, I had the light of the spirit. So it was like a little bit of both, you know, it's like living fully in the light, everything's fine. And on the other hand, there's, you know, creepy things that, you know, fears and stuff like that. So yeah, all these things have come up. And just in the last couple of years, everything is really cleared. Like all those things, I could understand exactly what happened to me and why, in a way, because when something happens to a Saja Yogi and he clears it, it helps other people also. So now I find myself in a point in my life where I'm literally, for the first time in my life, like free of problems, free of, you know, any darkness or anything that I had. And it's like a new beginning for me this year. So yeah, hopefully I'll be able to write some more interesting storybooks and things like that. I think these the character Oakee Doakee also expresses somehow the, me as a child. I thought about me as a little boy, I was a real seeker also, and I thought, oh my gosh, if I had known Kabbalah when I was 5 years old or something, I would have, wow, this is like, or if I'd been in, as a youth, if I'd been as a teenager, found Saj Yoga, I would have gone out on realization tours with all the yuvas. And I came to Saj Yoga when I was 24 after I'd gone through a lot of other difficult things. So yeah, so it's an interesting. Oh yeah, I just wanted to mention briefly. During the last few years, when I was going through a lot of really, really difficult churning and finding out things, there was one point. At one point, I just came to a single thing. Oh yeah, one thing that's interesting is that we have a pure willpower inside of us. It's like the pure desire, which is to be one with the spirit, but it's the action part of it where you just make a decision and you go. It's like a freeway, you get on it. And it's funny because I discovered that a couple of years ago when I was trying to feel, where it comes from. Basically, I just felt it comes from the pure desire, which is the spirit in the heart and the kundalini, but it comes into action like the willpower. And just a couple of days ago, Shrimati mentioned in a talk to somebody, this talk just popped up recently. It wasn't there before. She goes through everything and describing all our powers. 1980, I think, in Bordi. And she said that this willpower comes from Sri Mahalakshmi in the central channel. So I think many times in my life that's helped me because I had a little bit of the light. And then when it clicked from pure desire into pure willpower, then it took me out of, dangerous situations. And now in daily life, I think it's very important that we use it because, life is very comfortable and we're floating around having a nice time. But somehow, sometimes we forget that, we really have to stay in the center, not drift off into our ego, happy, or the superego, feeling lethargic or something. And two of the main simple things that we can do every day is at some point in one of my lowest moments a few years ago, I just said, suddenly this willpower popped up and I just said, I know exactly what I want and I know exactly what I'm going to do. And that was to keep the attention here and here at the same time. I've noticed that you can keep the attention up here, but somehow you can get quite right-sided also. Somehow, I don't know how that works, but if you can feel these 2 points at the same time, your heart, which is where your spirit is and where the divine love is flowing, and stay up here above everything, above the ego and superego, and feel those 2 points at the same time, and practice that because you actually get better at it. You can, in any situation, like Srinadaji says, you can just stay above, you don't react, jump into your ego and superego. And more recently, I think last year during the lockdown, my wife and I were out walking, and we discovered if you look at the tops of the heads of people, just at the top, not into their faces, but like if you look into their faces, you're at the agya level, mental level, you're sort of thinking and judging or whatever. But if you look at their tops of their heads, like when you're walking or driving or something, your attention goes to the top of your head. And just for a second, you get thoughtless. And so we have this thing where we say top of the head, top of the head, top of the head. And I think, the people may feel it. One time I was standing in a line in a shop at the cashier, and I just put my attention at the top of my head. I was sort of standing sideways, and all the people behind me looked at me suddenly, and the man in front of me started rubbing the heart of his wife like this. Like suddenly they just felt it. So we shouldn't underestimate this power that we have and just think everything's floating and it's fine. We should really try to stay there, and you can even use it. You can flow it out onto other people immediately. So we'll do a few minutes of meditation, and sorry, I just need a drink. There's last year. It's the nice thing about the lockdown is that all these meditations and everything started online. And online is like the ether, which is the only element that can't be damaged. And all the other elements can be affected by people, but the ether is always staying pure. And in a way, it's the element of the yogis, because we can, the Param Chaitanya is at that level, we can share it. And with another, we can join with each other. I mean, in a way, it's nice to get together and joke and laugh and hug and stuff. But Srimataji said once that's the level of the Vishuddhi. So we actually go beyond the level of the Vishuddhi through all these sort of ether meditations. And I just wanted to say that for me, the meditation, my best meditation was many years ago. I was in Vashi in India, and the doctors were working on me every day, and they cleared all my catches. I had no catches, and I had no thoughts, literally. I couldn't even, if I tried to think, it would be like a whisper in my head. So, and then suddenly I had no more guilt, because I realized I have no catches and no thoughts. I'm not guilty of anything anymore. I don't have any past or anything. And I always try to get back to that state. At that time, I found when we had the collective meditations in the evening, it was difficult for me to get into the thoughtless state, because you're just sort of sitting there. But as soon as I stood up from the meditation, I'd start walking, and I just look at my feet or my hands moving. It's like the witness state, you witness from the right Vishuddhi. And you just see yourself moving, and you're just watching yourself like you're an actor. It's like, wow. And so a lot of the meditations online, they do a lot of things. There's music and different things. The best, of course, is it's nice when we can see and hear Srimataji. But I just thought we'd meditate for a few minutes. And so normally I just enjoy if there's absolutely no sound, then inside my head I can hear if I make any sound. And it's like, but if there's sound all around, or if there's music or something, usually I don't notice if I'm thinking. So for me, this is just my thing, but I love just the silence. But in the mornings when I start meditating, I usually work with a candle a bit, clear away anything that I feel is sticking, and clear the liver if there's some heat or something. But I think just now we can do. There's an old cassette that's about from 30 years ago. It's just the centered mantras, and it's the name of the cassette was Kundalini Puja. So in a way, it's like clearing the way for the Kundalini by just giving, stating the names of the deities along the central path. So I will just go really quickly through, and I'll just say the mantras, and until we get up here, and then just meditate for a minute. Shri Ganesha Gauri Kundalini Mata. Om Tameva Sakshat Shri Ganesha Kundalini Mata Sakshat Shri Adi Shakti Mataji Shri Nirmala Devi. Shri Brahmadeva Saraswati. Om Tvameva Sakshat Shri Brahmadeva Saraswati Sakshat Shri Adi Shakti Mataji Shri Nirmala Devi. Shri Lakshmi Vishnu. Om Tvameva Sakshat Shri Lakshmi Vishnu Sakshat Shri Adi Shakti Mataji Shri Nirmala Devi Shri Adi Guru Dattatreya Om Tvameva Sakshat Shri Adi Guru Dattatreya Sakshat Shri Adi Shakti Mataji Shri Nirmala Devi Shri Jagadamba Durga Mata Om Tvameva Sakshat Shri Jagadamba Durga Mata Sakshat Shri Adi Shakti Mataji Shri Nirmala Devi Shri Radha Krishna Om Tvameva Sakshat Shri Radha Krishna Sakshat Shri Adi Shakti Mataji Shri Nirmala Devi Shri Hamsa Chakra Swami Om Tvameva Sakshat Shri Hamsa Chakra Swamini Sakshat Shri Adi Shakti Mataji Shri Nirmala Devi Shri Jesus Mary Om Tvameva Sakshat Shri Jesus Mary Sakshat Shri Adi Shakti Mataji Shri Nirmala Devi Namo Namah Shri Ekadesha Rudra Swami Om Tvameva Sakshat Shri Ekadesha Rudra Swamini Sakshat Shri Adi Shakti Mataji Shri Nirmala Devi Shri Viratangana Virata Om Tvameva Sakshat Shri Viratangana Virata Sakshat Shri Adi Shakti Mataji Shri Nirmala Devi Shri Nirananda Om Tvameva Sakshat Shri Nirananda Sakshat Shri Adi Shakti Mataji Shri Nirmala Devi Namo And we'll take the last Sahasrara mantra. Om Tvameva Sakshat Shri Kalki Sakshat Shri Sahasrara Swamini Moksha Pradayani Sakshat Shri Adi Shakti Mataji Shri Nirmala Devi Namo Namah Shri Nirmala Devi Namo Namah Shri Nirmala Devi Namo Shri Nirmala Devi Namo Raise our company. Thank you, Sri Mataji, for everything. So, yeah, I wanted to read something for you, and I wasn't sure what exactly, but I thought instead of the Okie Dokie, I could read you a poem I wrote many, many, many years ago. And this is about, I don't know if any of you have been bullied in school, but this is about a little boy named Billy, and he's a bully. But the reason he's a bully, why he's so aggressive, is because he had also a bad childhood, and he can't really feel his heart, so he just gets aggressive and becomes mean to people. And so he was lying in bed feeling really bad, and then suddenly he saw this little girl. It was like a ghost of a girl, and she was more on the left side, so he was on the right side and she was on the left side. And then they became friends. They talked to each other, and then Sri Ganesha came and gave them wonderful information that everything was going to be okay because the Sattva Yuga is coming, and all these horrible things that people have happened to so many children will never happen again. So, and they're going to be born into very nice families, and everything's going to be fine. So this is the idea. It's called The Bully and the Ghost. The earth where we live is a very old place. She has seen many things come and go. From the left to the right and the right to the left, the people have moved fast and slow. Here is a story about someone who's left and someone who went very right, and how when they met, everything for them changed and they came to the center of light. There once was a boy called Billy the Bull who walked with his nose in the air. And when someone tried to show him their love, he said that I really don't care. But deep down inside, Billy cared very much, and he wanted to show that he cared. But when he was small, he was hurt and abused, and now he was angry and scared. Every time Big Bad Billy went out in the world to find someone small to pick on, he hid in his heart a big ocean of love and wished that the hate was all gone. One lonely night, as he lay in his bed, Billy felt he's the worst in the world. And as he sat up to shout out his shame, he saw the small shape of a girl. What? Who are you? Asked the boy in the dark. But the little white shape hid and cried, till he walked across the room and sat on the floor and told her to sit by his side. There in the dark, on the cold bedroom floor, sat the bully and the white fairy. Billy was trying to stay calm and strong, but really he found her quite scary. You need not fear me, came her quivering voice. I'm a soul who has gone from the earth. When I was alive, I was treated so bad that I left, for I had little worth. And as she moved over as if to fly off, Billy begged her to stay and cheer up. Just because you were hurt, it's no reason to die. Why didn't you fight and bear up? You think it is better to fight like a fool? Asked the shimmering shape by his side. It is better to run and hide from the world than to show off your hate and false pride. What do you mean? Running off is for fools. But before he could say any more, the room filled with golden grand, sunny, warm light, and the children were filled with great awe. Before them, a boy with an elephant's head and the crown and the jewels of the king stood smiling and shining like a sun on a stream, with joy and sweet love overflowing. Take not to heart all the pain you've lived. The dark ages of fear are to end. For coming to earth is the mother's sweet realm. All the wounds and dark thoughts she will mend. Little sister, fly up now and wake till you're called. A dear family is waiting for you. You'll come back, a baby in loving warm arms, in a world with hearts clear and true. And my brother, you've also been lonely too long. Come with me and I'll show you the times that are coming to earth when innocence shines and all heart songs together will rhyme. And up they did fly through great, wondrous dreams till the whole world was laughing with joy. Then down Billy bounced into his soft bed where he had cuddled his favorite of toys. When he awoke with the sun in his eyes, he looked out to see the new world. Deep in his heart, he saw, for the first time, new hope shine for each boy and girl. Do you want something else? You all know the Hanuman poem. Oh yeah, it's in the end of the Oakee, Doakee and the Eagle Bomb. So you, those of you who said you read this book, you know it already. It's called Hanumana Hugs Your Heart. I put this online recently and somebody wrote that the Hanuman Chalisa, which I just realized because he said that is very, it was written by, I forget his name now, that ancient sage. But he wrote it in a very, each line is very short and it's also written in rhyming. Sanskrit rhyming is the first time I've seen that. So this friend said, "Oh, your poem reminds me of the Chalisa because it's short verses with rhyming." Wait. So, Hanumana hugs your heart. All the children of the world, every boy and every girl, give a bandan, don't you cry. Hanumana smiles nearby. Lord of angels, see him fly through the wide and windy sky. Call his name and you will feel all your pain and sorrow heal. All the children of the world, every boy and every girl, give a bandan, don't you cry. Hanumana smiles nearby. Stronger than 10 Supermans, he lifts mountains with his hands. With his happy monkey jokes, he turns egos into smoke. All the children of the world, every boy and every girl, give a bandan, don't you cry. Hanumana smiles nearby. When you sleep and when you play, he is there both night and day. If you share your love and toys, he will fill your heart with joy. All the children of the world, every boy and every girl, give a bandan, don't you cry. Hanumana smiles nearby. Hanumana smiles nearby, in the earth and in the sky, in your school and in your home, in the wind and in this poem. And there's a little Hanuman that Brigitte made, my wife made. He's in the castle in Canberra, in Sri Mataji's living room. And the last thing, I wanted to mention a little miracle about this. You see the drawings on here? Oh, thanks, Neera. See, I did the drawing. This is a map like of India, the bottom of India. And this is Lanka, which is below India. And this is where the Rakshasas used to live. Ravana was there.
Oh, Lanka, Sri Lanka.
Yeah, exactly. And so, see, I did his treehouse. That's Okie Dokee's treehouse. And so he flew from the modern times all the way back through time into ancient India. And about 30 years ago, or longer than 30 years ago, when I was quite young, I was a young man, newly married in Vienna. I woke up one night, I just went to sleep and I woke up laughing. In my sleep, I was laughing and it woke me up. And I saw, I think, this picture of this treehouse and some trail going down. So it's a weird thing. You know, they say that time doesn't really exist. Time is an illusion. So somehow I was able to feel the joy I got from making this book long time ago when I was in my sleep and I saw the vision of this. Because I just remember that like a year ago or 2 years ago that dream was about this kind of drawing that I had done. And so, yeah, this book gave me a lot of joy because, you know, we all know the Ramayana story about Sri Rama and Sri Sita and Lakshmana and what happened. Yeah, and so I was able to walk along this adventure, which I knew, and add Okie Dokie into it. And what would happen if a little boy really went back into the past and it was there, you know? And most people in the world think, well, the Hindus all believe it's a true story, but other people just think it's a made up story, you know, like mythology. So I wanted to write it in a way that it really like fact, like scientific fact. And I wanted to make it feel like how it is if a little boy like us went back and he's suddenly in the jungles and he has to eat nuts and fruits all the time. And at least he has this monkey, a couple of monkey friends and his turtle friend. His turtle friend is very, very old, like thousands of years old. She's like a grandmother and he always has her with him and she can talk to him and explain things. And but he goes through the whole adventure right up to the war and everything. And so it seems really realistic. And his dad is a professor at university and he's studying. His dad wrote a book about the Ramayana. So it's like his father is trying to figure out if it's true. And then his son goes back in time and actually lives this. And so this was a very special, gave me very special feelings. And in fact, after I finished the book, I was feeling bad because somebody criticized it and they said, this is not good. You know, you're talking about deities and things. And I was really, I felt really broken. And I thought, okay, I'll just throw it away. And then my wife and I checked vibrations. You know, at first I was just depressed. And then I had the idea of check vibrations. And we asked Mataji, is this story okay? Or should I change it or anything? And the answer was, no, like, don't change it. Find the way it is. And then I felt such joy. I actually felt what it's like if Sri Hanuman's beside you and he likes something that you do, if he actually likes you. And for the first time in all those years in Sahaja Yoga, I could feel the loving sort of friendship of these angels and these other divine beings, and that they really like us. You know, they're actually interested in us and they like to be with us and things like that. And I think I never had that because maybe left for Shruti, I never felt I could be close to divine beings. And I just, for the first time in my life, I just was laughing and crying, like literally laughing and crying with all the tears running down for about half an hour. And yeah, it opened something in my heart. And
I have a question.
Yeah.
So my question is that did Oakee only lived in India, or he also used to live somewhere else?
No, he lived in the West actually. He only visited India in the Ramayana when he flew there in his time machine. So he lived in the West, and you know, sort of normal Western, you know, like he had a garden in the back with his swings, a yard, and a normal house, and his parents. In fact, in the beginning, like I said, I wrote it when our son was in the Sahaja Yoga kindergarten in Italy. So I was sort of writing it like I don't know, I don't have that book, but the swings, it shows him swinging on the swings in the first book. So that's like the swings at the Sahaja Yoga kindergarten ashram in Italy, where the children would sit on the swing. Because I was writing it for all those children there. The aunties were reading it to them. So I wanted them to have the feeling that if they went out on the swings behind the ashram, they could also maybe, you know, Garuda would come and pick them up and take them somewhere. That was basically the feeling. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you mentioned this before, but how did you get into Sage Yoga?
I was actually very lucky because in the whole of North America, I think there was like about 14 Sahaja Yogis. And so Sahaja Yoga was just new, you know. And in Canada, Srimataji had just been there, but nobody was there. Like she came and some company organized the program and she left. There was no yogis, you know. And some lady came from Australia then and started to you know, meet people and stuff. And she had the list of people that were at the program, Srimataji's program. But and then there was 4 yogis started because of her. And they immediately went to India. One of them got married immediately. And then just after a couple of months after that, a friend of mine, they did a program out in the suburbs in a library, and a friend of mine went to it. And he was so excited, he didn't know who to tell, you know, and then he remembered that I like to read stuff, seeking. And he came over to my house, he said, "Oh, you won't believe I had this experience." And And at first I didn't really believe him. And then he said, I'll pick you up on Tuesday. You know, they have an ashram. And I didn't know what he was talking about. And then he took me, he showed up and I'd forgotten he was coming. I said, well, okay. And we went there and we had a meditation that evening in this new ashram, which was the first ashram, the first yogis in Canada. And I had a lot of damage inside me and stuff from doing all kinds of things. And so I felt a lot of pain in my back and stuff. We heard a talk of Srimataji and I went home and I just, because I had been doing some wrong meditation before that was also damaging me. And I just felt, well, I'll just try this, you know, see what happens. And I had a little picture of Srimataji that they gave me, a little black and white one. And so I just, the other meditation I was trying to do was like 20 minutes. So I said, I'll just try this 20 minutes. So I put the picture there, put my hands like that, watched, it was 20 minutes, and then finished. And in the evening, I'd do that with Futsal. And after 2 weeks, I was completely changed. You know, I had all these friends who just, you know, were drinking alcohol and all these things. And I just like, it was like waking up after like my whole life I'd been sort of asleep. I mean, in my childhood, I was more fresh, but through my teenage years, it was like in a dark cloud. And it was like coming up out of the water. It was like taking a breath and looking around, oh my gosh. And then I moved away. There's some beautiful islands on the west coast of Canada. And I went for 1 month, I went on one of these islands where there's few people and there's just deer in the morning all over the road and stuff. And you can see the blue water and the other islands. And that's where I spent like my first month. And then I thought, well, I can't just live like this. I have to come back and join, you know, the society. And then I started helping go to the libraries with the other yogis. But it was very slow because we were all new. There was only like 7 of us in the beginning. And we had to work out all our things. And, you know, sometimes there were arguments and things and a lot of friction. There was a lot of negativity. So you can imagine the whole country had no Param Chaitanya yet. I mean, from the nature, of course, there's beautiful areas that have the Param Chaitanya. But like in the city where we worked and lived, it was nothing. So we had to start from scratch, basically.
Okay.
Okay, you want some more questions? Or you want me to?
Is like I have a question.
Yeah.
Is Oakee I'm also not really sure if you mentioned this before, but are all the Okie Dokie books sort of based on your childhood?
I think when somebody writes, sometimes they come out. It's like all these Ganeshas that my wife makes. Everybody says the eyes are like hers, you know. They say, "Oh my gosh, she's got your eyes." So yeah, Brigitte's eyes are in her artworks, and I think my desire or my wish, you know, how I maybe would have loved to have my childhood, you know, came out in the Okie Dokie character. So I don't think of him as being like me, but our son, when he was small, he was in all the Saj Yoga schools and everything, and he was very active, you know, like quite right-sided, and so he liked all that, you know, the Amachitra Kata comic books with all the adventures and stuff we'd read as bedtime stories. So when I had this idea to write this for them when he was like 4 or 5 years old, in a way it was like for him because I liked him to get the feeling what it would be like to meet Sri Hanuman and, you know, go on these adventures and know who Sri Ganesha is and save the world and stuff like that. So yeah, in a way, it's I guess a combination of me and my son and just some creative character. Any more questions?
How many Okie Dokie books are there so far? I meant right now. How many are there?
There's 3. There's the first one is Okie Dokie and the Hate Wave. Second one that you know, Okie Dokie.
I didn't know there was a third one. I did not know there was a third one.
Third one is this one. This is the big one. It's got color photograph images in it, and it's a longer one. It's like I tried to write it a bit like Harry Potter, you know, like lots of adventure, action and stuff like that. Because the first ones had action, but they were not so scary. I mean, this one is a little bit more scary because, I mean, obviously, if you meet Rakshasas, it's more scary than, you know, some other things. But we all know this story of the Ramayana that it's you know, has a happy ending and everything. So but it's good. It's nice reading, and it was more enjoyable to do the drawings because, if you could do color, like this is one of the monkeys. This is like a UFO that was coming down on the beach, and it's being flown by the Rakshasas. Like in those old days of Sri Rama, there was all these flying machines that they had. And here they are sleeping on the beach. There's the monkey, the dog, and the turtle, and Oakee Doakee.
What is the book called again?
Oakee Doakee and the Timeless Machine, the Ramayana.
Okay.
You meet a Rakshasa that's definitely a little bit more scary than meeting Voldemort. Voldemort is actually really, really scary. So I guess they're
Yeah. I guess Voldemort is also like a Rakshasa. Here's me as a pirate. That's in the old days when I used to be a pirate, but I was always a good pirate. And then there's some friends when they were small, they're all grown up now. This is many years ago. Oh, here's the flying pushback. You know, pushback is the flying garden. That's one of the flying machines that they had. Pushback garden. That's what they flew home on in the end of the story. Anything else? You know, in North Carolina.
I have a question about that. Did Oakee knew Shrimataji?
Yeah, because he used to dream of her. You know, in the first books, it shows at the end her picture. You know, these books
Well,
have,
also, like, what about the altar? Does the altar also have Shrimataji, or it only has deities?
he didn't really have an altar, but he used to dream of Shrimataji. That's why I put Shrimataji at the end of the books. I put Shrimataji as his mother. You know, I didn't say her name. I just said Oakee Doakee's mother would tell him things. You know, and then I put the picture like this. And one time I did a reading in a school in Vienna, and at the end, there was one girl. She was the most troublesome girl in the school, but I think she was a seeker. She wanted to know everything, and she was very active. And when all the other children left the class, she came up and she was looking through the book like this. And then she said, "Who's that? Who's that? Who is that? Is that your mummy?" And I was like, "Yeah, this is Oakee Doakee's mummy, you know." And so she was getting his Kundalini came up really strong. But yeah, so he dreams. He refers to her as the great, what is it? The Divine Mother? The Divine Mother Empress. And she's like, you know, the ruler of the whole universe. And so I tried to do it in a way that children who never heard of Saj Yoga or Shrimataji could hear about the great Empress Mother and go, "Oh, wow, you know, I didn't know." And a friend of mine from school, he's grown up now and he had a little girl. And I sent the book to her, and he was just like, he was 4 years old, and she was sick actually in bed. And her father, my friend, came in, and she was sitting like in a meditation position on her bed, this 4-year-old. He said, "What are you doing?" She said, "I'm doing it, Uncle Edward. I'm doing like Uncle Edward, I'm doing a Ganesha meditation." And she had never heard of Ganesha or anything before, just from my book. And she felt her Kundalini and everything, and she was meditating on her own. So I was hoping that children that never heard of Saj Yoga, or were not in Saj Yoga, could, you know, get the experience through these books. Any more questions? You know,
Okay.
I used to live in North Carolina for a while. That's quite close to Washington.
Can you still do that Chinese monkey accent?
I don't remember how it went. You mean no, that's a Chinese penguin, is that? Chinese monkey. Oh yeah, when you were visiting here, we did Chinese monkey, right?
Yeah.
It was something like, no, I think one of my favorite things that I also did was the music. With the music is like drumming. And you know, like when the children come here, we have a little children's party room upstairs. It's just, it has a very low ceiling so the children can walk easily. And then normally we have colored lights and music, and we make music with drums and things like that. And many times in Saj Yoga, I was on the stage beside Sri Mataji playing drums with all the other musicians, bhajans. And so I was lucky in those days. How many children are watching? Is anybody
In
there?
the Zoom meeting, there are
I think there is 6.
8 people, including me,
Ah,
9 people, including you.
okay. 8 children on Zoom. Did you use Zoom very much? Did the lockdown cause you to stay away from school, or where do you go to school normally?
I usually do ISPS.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I first used to do Moorfield, and now I do ISPS.
Oh. Normally you're ISPS. You mean you live in India normally? At
No,
school.
I'm not in India. We do it online. So it
Oh.
can be also equal for India and also equal for other countries. So for in India,
They have recording.
but in California, it's like six in between. We only have 3 classes, 1 meditation in the morning. We have to wake up on 7:30, and our school ends on 10:30 for the meditation, and the meditation ends on 8 o'clock, and our school starts on 8 o'clock. So I have to rush from here to all the way up, since there's my room where I study. So I do the meditation down over here in the Zoom meet. So I can also take other stuff.
Wow.
Then I have to go all the way up back to my desktop.
Oh my gosh. But otherwise you'd have to go all the way to a school somewhere, right?
It's not really in a rush because so the teacher doesn't come very early. There's a little bit time, and then like very little bit, and then the teacher comes, and then we start our class, and then there's a break, and then after that break, then there's class again, then another break, then there's class again, and then we are finished for the day. They give us lots of homework.
Wow. And that's all on Zoom.
No. So
Oh.
the meditation is only on Zoom, but the whole thing is on Teams.
Oh, you mean it's all on the computer?
No, not just a computer. I'm logged in from a phone. I'm logged in from a computer. I'm logged in from a desktop. So
Oh my
I usually sometimes send my homework from the desktop, but then I logged in from the phone. Then I started to use the phone because it's much better, and then it doesn't show blurry.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a whole different lifestyle than I was used to when I.
Yeah, so in the lockdown, I also did online school, but it was very long. It was like what we would usually have before coronavirus started. It was very long, but we had breaks in between, like a 15-minute break.
Sorry, I just say goodbye to all the people on YouTube. Bye. See you later.
And for the one which does like these schools, which now there is a break, like example for the nearby school.